Greetings and welcome to Patriot 6. In this tutorial, I will improve the scenery around helipads, particularly at hospitals. The helicopter folks of the community appear to have the worst scenery to work with. It's good to see the creators are beginning to pay attention to the rotor folks and making payware available, but there will always be locations vital to you that will take your intervention to improve the area. The methods used are not exclusive to helipads or hospitals. I can use these methods at any location and for any scenario. I can use the same methods at airports and other significant geographical areas. I will focus on hospitals because the helicopter folks of the community have mostly dreadful scenery to deal with. Therefore, I will cover two everyday situations you see as a helicopter pilot. Situation 1 is the two-dimensional areas where you have satellite imagery and the simulator generates AI buildings and vegetation. The ground textures are satellite images that are only pictures on the ground. The second situation is what occurs in 3D photogrammetry areas. Again, due to the resolution limitations of the 3D photogrammetry, you end up with scenery that could be more appealing. Also, parking lots and vehicle areas stand out as the worst part of the scenery. Therefore, I will upgrade the parking lot. Before I upload each video, I go through the video and mark timelines to set chapters. And I do this to make it more convenient for the viewer. Anytime you're watching one of the videos, you can drop down to the description, tick on the Show More, and as you roll through the Show More, it will have pertinent information like the Patriot Six Channel, the Patriot Six Scenery Group, Discord, any videos that I believe are relevant to the subject, and then you get into the chapters of the video. This is the subject content, and here are the basic tutorials. You can skip around, or you can come back and find a chapter that you may need to rewatch later simply by ticking on the number. And you will immediately go to the chapter that you selected. Now we'll begin and see what I can do to improve the scenery around helipad locations. Okay, I have the tools opened up. I pre-built the scenery package and it is loaded into the editor. The scenery library has loaded into the objects window and I will begin. If you're new to building scenery, the last part of this video will be a tutorial series. The tutorials will show you everything you need to start doing what I'm doing now. I will begin in an area where in a previous tutorial I created a start point helipad. So what I'm going to do is replace the textures in this area, both the ground and the parking lots. The cars on the parking lots are just pictures on the ground. And something to remember once you start a scenery project and you get ready to build, always go up to the objects window and tick all. That gives you access to all of the objects in the library. And as you move around and do selections, this will become unticked, which is no big deal. Just make sure when you get ready to add objects that you have the all ticked. Unless, of course, you're searching for a specific package. And sometimes we do that when building scenery. So to redo all these textures, it's going to take a lot of polygons. And the first thing I'm going to do is build a large temporary polygon. And with this polygon, I'm just going to exclude the AI generated trees. By excluding the AI generated trees, it will give me an idea of what I need to do in terms of vegetation. Because if you look closely, some of the trees are simply pictures, and the AI is not generating a tree there. So I will manually have to add trees where they're not. But to clear the area off temporarily so I can build the polygons I need, I will build a temporary exclusion polygon to remove the trees. And I'll do so by going to the Objects window and change from Scenery to Polygon. And now I'm going to add a large polygon around the area. And with the polygon selected, I'm going to the Properties, and I'm going to Vegetation. I'm going to tick on Vegetation and bring the slider down to clear the trees out. So now the AI generated trees are temporarily removed so I can see what I'm doing. And now I'm going to build a lot of polygons. And I will pause the video and come back to you once the polygons are built. Okay, I think I have all the polygons in place that I'll need, so I'm going to start to add the material. I'm going to bring up the material editor, and I'll start out with the main concrete here. Make sure I have it selected. Bring up the materials. I'm going to Asobo concrete. I'm going to look for square white, and I'm going to drag it up into the properties window where it says material. Once you have the material up, you can play around with the colors and get the colors where you want them to be. And I think that looks pretty good there, particularly once I start getting the green in. It should look good. And over here, I'm going to look for more of a browned concrete. I could probably use the same one and just make the color more brown. Here is a square beige. Let's see how it looks. Looks gray to me. Perhaps it has a beige tint. That probably looks fine. And over here we have an asphalt. Make sure I get the right one. And I'm looking for a black asphalt. And now, one thing I need to tell you that with polygons, you can overlay polygons on top of polygons. You can have polygons encroach upon the space of other polygons. But as I put the asphalt in, it did not show up, and that's because I need to go to the Properties window here and bring up the priority. There we go. By raising the priority, it does show on top of the gray concrete. And let's see if we can get the color a little better. Not really liking that. think I can go with this gray here. And I have a lot of places where I have to put grass in. So ground grass 2. And that's a color I pre-set up. It's about as close as I'm going to get. So I'll just add the grass in all the locations where it goes. And again, once I apply a material which is covering up another material, you have to raise the priority. And to get it to show up, I had to raise the priority to a 1 here, and then it will show up on the concrete. And I'll continue on adding the grass and bringing up the priority by 1, and then selecting the color. Okay, I have applied the materials inside each of the polygons. And so to recap, you can put polygons on top of polygons. For an example, the concrete is inside a polygon. And if I look at the properties of the concrete over here, you'll see the concrete is set for a priority of 0. The grass polygon, which is on top of the concrete, is set at a priority of 1. If I take it down to 0, like the concrete, it will vanish. So it has to be 1 higher priority than whatever it's on. Back here in the back I have the asphalt, and the asphalt's on top of the concrete, so the asphalt has a priority of 1, where the concrete is 0. And then the grass polygons on top of the asphalt are at a priority of 2. So every time that you overlay a polygon on another and add a material, if you want to see it, you have to up the priority. The polygon that I built in the very first to get rid of the trees I have now removed. And some of the trees are okay, but additional trees are going to have to be added. And some of these spaces here needs trees because that is the way it is in real life. And in addition to that, there's a few trees that are out in the driveway that needs to be removed. And that's real easy to do. I'll just make a quick polygon right here on top of this one. And over on the properties, I will go to Vegetation and slide the slider down, and that tree will vanish. And I have a few more like that are kind of lingering out in the parking lot that I don't want. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and remove the excess trees and add some additional trees to make the area look better. Now when it comes to adding trees, you can go up to the Objects window up here, and you can go back to Scenery, tick All, and then type in Tree. And in the Scenery library will be trees. You just have to find the tree that you like and add the tree. I'm going to the one-click placing and just place these trees in here. These look good for the area. And if you want some variation, you can do that too. And there's another way that we can add trees. We could just build a polygon inside of this polygon. And then once the polygon is built, you can go over to the properties and select Vegetation, and trees will start to appear. And then you can lower the scale to whatever you want. If you don't want them too large, you can do that. You can make them more dense. Adjust them to whatever you want. Here's something else you can do. Because these trees want to hang out in the road, you can actually edit a polygon. So I selected this center polygon, the one which I used for trees, and I can grab a corner of it and move the corner and move this point and move this point, and that will rein the trees in a little bit. And now I'm going to continue on adding trees. I'm going to build another polygon to add to the trees that are here. Bring in the vegetation. Here I found a bush to cover up the ground texture. And occasionally you will have shadows of trees. So let's add some car lines. Get the cars placed and turned the way I want. And you can continue on and put as many cars as you want. I'm not going to fill up the entire parking lot because that would take a lot of time. To make it look more realistic, let's go ahead and place an ambulance in here. We got one with emergency lights and one without. And the last thing I'm going to do here is add some street lights for the parking lot. I'm going to lower the light a bit so the lights will come on and I can see what it looks like when I add the lights. You can type in lamp and go down and find what kind of lamp you want, whether it be a single, a double, a quad. In real life, there's some lights out here, so I'm going to place some. This area looks better. Let's go fix the second scenario that you will run upon, and that's the ones with the 3D photogrammetry. So we're at downtown Vanderbilt Hospital, and it does have helipads on it, which could be used. This helipad is part of the 3D photogrammetry, and it will not have a collision. If you try to land on it, you'll just go straight through it. So you need to put a helipad up here with a collision. I can do that because I have a package from FlightSim.to that has helipads in it with collisions. Now it's going to automatically snap to ground, so once you put the helipad down, you want to go to the properties and remove snap to ground, and then we can raise it up and put it where we want to. Use the gizmo to rotate and translate and get it exactly where you want it. And that should work. Now let's take a look at this parking lot. The cars are part of the 3D photogrammetry along with the trees, and you can see they look pretty hideous. But we can get rid of those and make this look better. Now to get rid of them, we're going to have to use a polygon. So I'm going up to the objects window and select polygon again. And now I'm going to add the polygon. We have to use an exclusion polygon and select buildings. When it comes to 3D photogrammetry, it doesn't know the difference in a building and a car. So we'll use buildings to exclude. However, we don't want to exclude the buildings, we just want to exclude the cars. So I'm going to have to be selective with this polygon and make sure I don't take out the buildings. Now the polygon is built, and I will go over to the properties, go to buildings and exclude all. And you will still see the cars, but the cars are now just pictures. So we can actually place cars over the top of these now. And I'll need to go back to scenery, tick all, and then type in car. And go back and find the car rows that I used before. Use the gizmo to rotate them in place. And once I get it orientated the way I want, then I can just duplicate. You may want a little more variety, so you may not want to duplicate. I'll use another 7-pack and rotate it around. Basically just covering up the cars. Now for these, we're just going to have to use singles. And I found a utility vehicle to put here. Now it's not going to totally cover it up, but I can go over to the gizmo and scale it up a bit. And that covers up that ugly vehicle. Let's see what it looks like. Let's put some street lamps in here. And the last thing I'm going to do is add a light to the helipad so it shows up. You can go through this as much as you want and get as detailed as you want. I just want to make sure you understand how to fix parking lots that are 3D photogrammetry and how to fix parking lots that are two-dimensional. So I'm going to take a warm light and add. And over on the properties, I'm going to remove snap to ground and raise it up. And that gives off pretty good light for the helipad, and you can see this from a distance. So that's what I'm looking for. So now I'm going to save this scenery. And this is all the work I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and build the package. I can take the properties out of the way now. And the package is built, and we don't have any additional errors. That's a good thing. We can take the tools down. And I'll bring up the community folder. And I'll bring up the working scenery folder. And here is the package we've been working on, Patriot 6 TriStar Medical Scenery. So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to open the packages up. And here is the package. I'm going to copy and paste into the community folder. And it is now in the community folder. I'm going to restart the simulator to pick up the new package. Back in the simulator, I'm going to look at the content manager and see if the package is in here. And here it is, hospital parking. So we know the package is now in the content manager and loaded in. And we'll go look at Vanderbilt first, and I'll paste in the coordinates. I'm going up to the developer menu to options and pause the sim. Hit ready to fly, and now I'm going to get in the developer camera. Now over to Vanderbilt's Children's Hospital. You can see the cars that I placed in the parking lot and where I removed the ugly 3D photogrammetry cars. And you can see the collision helipad that I placed over here. I would fly to it, but I've never learned to fly a helicopter yet. And let's turn the lights down. And the parking lot is lit up along with the helipad. And now we've taken care of the 3D photogrammetry area. I'm going to go to the main menu, and we're going to start at the hospital I worked on it first. Because as I said, I built a package for that hospital with a start point helipad, TSMC, TriStar Medical Center, and we want to fly. So again, I'm going to pause the simulator. We are zoned in. I'm going to the developer camera. And you can see all the different textures that I added. The bushes and the trees, the ambulances, and let's turn some lights down. And there you go. This is some ways that you can improve the scenery that you have to look at as a helicopter pilot. As I said earlier, you don't have a lot to work with right off the bat. And I did spend a lot of time in this area to make it look well. But for your projects, you can spend all the time you want. And this certainly looks a lot better than it did before I started. So I'm going to wrap this up. I thank you for watching. Everything that I've done is available between this video and the tutorials that follow. So if you don't already know how to do these things, go to the tutorials right after this video, and you can see all the ins and outs, setting the package up, getting SDK going, building polygons, all the different things that you need to know to allow you to do what I did here. And I want to thank you for watching Patriot 6, and if you're not a subscriber, I would greatly appreciate it if you'd consider subscribing. I put out videos as needed, and I keep the videos up to date with the newest techniques. So becoming a subscriber would be very important, and I would appreciate that. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye. This is Patriot 6, and I hope to see you soon. Welcome to Patriot 6. I make SDK tutorial videos for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. I keep the videos simple with the beginner in mind, folks that have yet to attempt to build scenery in SDK. In addition, I keep the videos up to date. If methods change with SDK updates, I will update the videos as needed. I will timestamp the video, and you can drop down in the video description, tick on the See More button, and see the chapters of this video. You may need to revisit a section. The timestamps simplify video navigation. In addition, you will see relevant videos linked in the description. For example, a Polygon tutorial is always linked to the videos because polygons are essential for building scenery in MSFS 2020. Furthermore, a polygon is a diverse tool that includes and excludes objects and materials for several applications. You will also find a link to Patriot Six Discord, which is an international group of folks, and we all help each other with scenery-related issues. The tutorials in this video are downloading SDK and Samples, set up the SDK editor windows, the external tools, operating the developer camera, creating a thumbnail, creating a scenery folder, building a simple polygon, and package completion and community folder migration. And with that, let's jump into the tutorials. Now we're going to obtain SDK and the samples. And the first step we're going to do is we're going up to Options. We're going to go to General Options. We're going to drop down to Developers, On, Apply and Save. And once you go into Developers mode, you will see a new menu pop at the top. I call this the Developers menu. And from the Developers menu, go to Help and tick on SDK Installer Core. And a window will come up and download SDK. Now once SDK is downloaded, you can open and start the installation. And for me, once SDK was installed, it installed in a folder on my C drive called MSFS SDK. Once SDK is installed, you can go back to the Help menu and you can drop down to Samples and download the samples. You will go through the same process as before, where the downloader will open up your browser and start to download the SDK samples. And once the download is complete, you can go up to the folder, open the folder, and the installation will begin. Here's a change that I noted as of SU12. In the past, you would see SDK up in your right-hand window. And as long as it was blue, you had the most current, up-to-date SDK. But I have noticed in SU12, it's now changed. On the developer menu, where it says Dev Mode, if there is an update, you will see a little yellow button here, just like you do for a Windows update. And to update the SDK, you can tick on Dev Mode and tick on SDK Updates. A window will pop up which will allow you to download SDK updates. And once you've downloaded the SDK updates, you can tick the refresh button, and the refresh button will clear any notices that you have that SDK needs an update. And now I'm going to walk through how you set up the SDK windows while in developers mode. In the previous versions of SDK, you would go up to Tools to bring up your windows, but that has now changed. In the newest version of SDK, you want to go up to Editors. And we're going to start out with the Project Editor and tick on it. And here is what you get. Now, I do not like this particular look. I have resized all the windows and moved them where I like the windows to be. This is subjective. You may want to put your windows in a different location, but when you start out with the new SDK, it's going to default to this look. So to resize, we're going up to the project editor, grab a hold of it, and move it. Sometimes it seems to be a little tricky. It doesn't want to move, but you can move it. And then once you move it, you can spread it out and make it the size you want. You can go down to the bottom right-hand corner and size the window up. Same thing with the inspector. And I like my project editor to be over here and the inspector to be here. And now I have the project editor and the inspector relatively in a location I prefer. You can tick the inspector off and on from the project editor menu by ticking View. Now let's talk about the external tools. These tools can vary from person to person, but I'll tell you what I like to do. I have a folder built and placed on my desktop called the Working Scenery folder. In the Working Scenery folder, I always keep a fresh copy of Simple Scenery, and any scenery folders I'm currently working on would be in this folder, and I'll keep them there until they are completed. In addition to that, I recommend that you have a completed package folder. I keep a completed packages folder, and everything that I've ever built I keep in this folder. In any event, I want to come back and change some scenery that I built in the past, and you can do that. And then I can go to the completed packages and pull up the folder that I need, move it to the Working Scenery folder, and continue working on the project. I also keep a personal thumbnail handy in the Working Scenery folder. Occasionally you will need a text editor. I like to use Notepad++, but you use whatever works for you. And the text editor is simply for information you want to retain. For an example, if you're building an airport, you're going to want to get the GPS coordinates of the airport, and you can go to a map and get the GPS coordinates, and you can paste the GPS coordinates in the text editor and have that ready for you when you need it during the project build. Now that I'm loaded in the simulator, I want to use the developer camera. So back up on the developer menu, under camera, I'm going to tick on developer camera, and it will place you outside the aircraft like so. Once outside the aircraft, the developer camera operates a lot like the drone camera. If I want to move forward, I can press the W key. If I want to move in reverse, I can press the S key. If I want to go left, I can use the A key. And if I want to go right, I can use the D key. If I want to rise, I could use the R key. And if I want to drop, I can use the F key. You can also use the numeral keys for certain movements. To spin to the left on the numeric keypad, you want to press 4. And to turn to the right on the numeric keypad, you want to use 6. You can also use 8 to pan up and 2 to pan down. If your azimuth gets off, which it will do when you're building scenery, you can use the 7 key to tilt to the left and the 9 key to tilt to the right. And even though you will use a combination of all of these keys while building scenery, the way you will most often move around is free movement. And you can freely move by holding down the left Alt key and using the left mouse button. Now here's what happens if I just press the left Alt button and use the mouse. Sometimes you can have fine movement like this, and sometimes you will shoot way away from where you want to be. You can always press the 5 key and it will bring you back to the aircraft. So the best practice I have found is to use the F key and drop down. Then take the left Alt key, press it, and barely move with the left mouse button, and that gives you fine control, and that's what you're looking for with the camera. And now let's create a thumbnail. Creating a thumbnail is not a function within Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. It's a simple Windows function. And you can do this with very simple tools. You can actually use a screenshot and use Microsoft Paint. You can use the standard snipping tool in Windows to grab a picture. It doesn't take expensive or elaborate tools to make a thumbnail. Let's say I want to build a thumbnail of the city where I live, Nashville, Tennessee, because I'm going to add scenery here. Then I would just find a picture that's suitable to me on the web. And then I would use the Windows snipping tool. And I would grab a portion of the photo. I'm going to grab a snippet that appears close to the aspect ratio of the thumbnail. Now once I have it, I can just save it wherever I want to. In this case, I'll go ahead and save it in the working scenery folder. And now I'll bring up just standard Microsoft Paint and open the photo that I just captured. If you want to add some text, you can. It's up to you. And now with the text added, we want to resize the image. For a thumbnail in Microsoft Flight Simulator, it has to be exactly 412 by 170 pixels. So I'm going to the resize, and I'm going to go to pixels. I'm going to unlink the aspect ratio so I get the image at the exact size. It's 412, 170. Hit OK, and now the image is resized for Microsoft Flight Simulator. And now I can save the image. And now I actually have this for use in the package. And that's how easy it is to build a thumbnail. So let's create our first scenery folder. So here I have the working scenery folder. Let's drop down to where the SDK folder was installed. As I said earlier, it's installed on my C drive as MSFS SDK. We want to open the SDK folder. We want to go to Samples. We want to go to Dev Mode Projects. Then we want to go to Sceneries. And let's make a copy of the simple scenery folder and paste it inside the working scenery folder. As I said before, I always like to have a fresh copy of simple scenery in the working scenery folder. So to create a project, I want to make a copy of the simple scenery folder and paste it, and of course it gives me simple scenery copy, and I'm going to rename it. If you build a generic package in Microsoft Flight Simulator, the generic package is going to say My Company Scenery Simple. The three words are separated by hyphens. I stick with that naming convention, but it's up to you. I'm going to rename the simple scenery copy to Patriot 6 Nashville Lights Scenery. And I'm going to use this same name in the package. Now let's go down to the project editor. Let's hit Project, Open Project. Go to the folder that I just renamed, Patriot 6 Nashville Lights Scenery, and open. Drop to the bottom XML and open. And you will see the package name, My Company Scenery Simple. So we're going to tick on it, and up here at the top is where the package gets its name. So I'm going to change this package to match the scenery folder. So I have Patriot 6 Nashville Lights Scenery. The second section here is for the content manager. I'll call it Nashville Lights. Enter my creator name, go down to the thumbnail, tick on it, and navigate to the working scenery folder and grab the thumbnail that we created. The last thing we want to do, if you'll look down here, you'll see marketplace data, my scene, and my model lib. If you have no plans of putting this on the marketplace, which I doubt that you do, I would tick on the marketplace data and remove the data. And you're going to get this warning, and I'm going to tick only remove from current project and remove. Up here where it says asset groups, that's where we have my scene and my model lib. We can tick the edit button here, or we can simply tick on each one of these and rename them. And I recommend that we rename the BGL and the model lib to match the package. So I could hit edit here, or I can tick here. Either one works. And I'm going to take my out and I'm leave scene in there. And I added Nashville Lights and left scene in there. And now it's Nashville Lights Scene BGL. I'm going to do the same thing with model lib, leaving model lib in and taking my out. And now if we look down here, the model lib and the BGL are unique. And now I want to tick on the package and make sure everything lights up in the inspector, and I have the build package option. And before we can do any scenery work, we have to build the initial package. So let's do that. This dialog box pops up because the information is different than what's saved to disk. And of course it is because we edited all the information, so we want to tick yes. And now the package is built, and if we look up here in the errors, we have 0 errors. So we are good to go. If I had not removed the marketplace data, it would have shown an error. Now, I don't think this error would matter and cause a problem, but rather than take a chance, I just removed the marketplace data. Now, the next thing we want to do is drop down to the BGL and load in the editor. And the windows are going to be all over the place, so we're going to have to adjust the windows. I'll start with the scenery editor. I like it down here. And the objects, I like the objects to look like this. And up here, the material editor, we'll use it in a second, but I'm going to move it to the second monitor. Now let's go back and find the gizmo. I can go to view on the scenery editor and tick on the gizmo. And now I'm going to have to resize the gizmo to something more of my liking. And something else that is handy often is the properties window, and you can get to it from the scenery editor. Go down to view and tick on properties and bring it up and put it wherever you want. And we're still waiting on the scenery objects to load in, and they just loaded in. So everything in the library is now loaded in. So let's add a few simple things and see how they look. First thing I'm going to do is show you how to build a simple polygon. This is not going to be a thorough tutorial on polygons, but a very simple way to build polygons. There is a video in the description that shows you all the things you can do with polygons, and I recommend that you watch that video. But up on the objects window, I'm going from scenery to polygon. And to start a polygon, you have to hit the add button on the objects window. And when you do, you're going to get an error down here in the scenery editor. And that error is temporary. Once you complete the polygon, the error will go away. So I hit add, and you see the error down here, and you see the polygon shows as an error. You're going to hold the left control key down, and you should see a little red X following you around. And every time you tick with the left mouse button, you will set an anchor point. So that was a tick, another tick, another tick, another tick. And then when you get to the last point, just double tick. And now the polygon is complete. Presently, the polygon is selected. But if you get off the polygon, you can either tick in the middle, which works most of the time. Sometimes if you have a lot of objects and it's very busy where you're working, you may have trouble ticking on the polygon. You can simply go over to the scenery editor and select the polygon there. So with a simple polygon built, I'm going to insert a material into the polygon. This is just a couple of the features that you can do with polygons. I do recommend you watch the full video. Let's go with the Sobo ground, and let's just grab any grass. And this is where we'll need the properties window. Down here in the properties window at the bottom, you'll see materials. I'm going to take the Sobo grass and drag it over into the materials. And now we have a grass material in place in the polygon. If we want to use something else, like say a Sobo concrete, we can go grab a concrete and drag it into the materials. Whatever material you need, you can drag in here. One last thing on the polygon, you can edit the polygon after you've built it. In other words, if you want to change the shape, make it fit a little better, you can go down here and grab one of the corners, like I just did, and drag it. And whatever shape you want, you can make it. This comes in really handy, say for an example, if we were putting grass in this area here, and after I got the polygon built, it just didn't fit exactly right, I could drag and move the polygon around. And you could also do one more thing. You can add points. So by ticking on it, I can say add point, and it will add a new point. And this can come in very handy when you're trying to make things fit. So let's find one more thing to add here. I'm going back up to the objects window. I'm going to tick on scenery. And I'm going to tick on mast, M-A-S-T. And I'm going to find an airport lamp and add it. And here it is, and I'll just drag it to the middle. This is all we need to show you how it works. So now I'm going down to the scenery editor and I'm going to save the scenery. The scenery is saved, but before this will work, we have to go back to the project editor, make sure we're ticked on the package, and we have to build the final package. So you have to have a package built initially to start, and you have to build the final package for everything that you've added to be included in the package. And those two steps are a must. If you do not do those, this will not work. So always remember, build the first package, add your scenery, make sure you save the scenery. If you're working on a big project, I would save the scenery often. Just in the event you have a crash to desktop, you want to make sure you save as much of the work as you can. So with everything saved and everything in place, I'm going to build the final package. And you see we don't have any errors, so we are good. So we can shut the console down. We can go to the editor and shut the project and the scenery down. And shut the material editor down. Let's go to the working scenery folder. And let's also bring up the community folder. If we open the working scenery folder, it will look different now than it did before, and now we have a folder called Packages. And if you open that folder, you will see the package, Patriot 6 Night Light Scenery. And just to be clear, if you open a package and look in it, you should see a Content Info folder, a Scenery folder, a Layout JSON, and a Manifest JSON. And if you have those in there, you should be good to go. So let's make a copy of this package and let's paste it into the community folder. And I see it's in the community folder. So let's restart the sim and see that we had this. Okay, we're back in the simulator and we're at the location, and I can already see our grass and our pole out in front of us. But let's go ahead and hop in the developer camera and take a look around. And there is the simple grass we added with the polygon and the light mast. And should we turn the lights down, you would see this light functions just fine. So with the information that's been given to you in this tutorial series, you are ready to build your own packages. The sky's the limit. Use your imagination and do whatever you want to do. And if you're not a subscriber of Patriot 6, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. I keep the videos up to date. I believe this is my third or fourth tutorial series. Anytime Microsoft makes an update that changes how the SDK works, I have to go in and redo the videos. That's part of it. But it keeps you up to date. So if you don't mind, if you enjoyed the content and you think the content is helpful, please give a thumbs up and a subscribe. And you can search the channel. I have videos covering many subjects. And I continue to add more as I think it's needed for the community. Also, below in the description, you can find a link to the Patriot 6 Facebook page. And there we have a community of international folks of all levels of skills, and mostly we help each other out when we have issues, questions, or problems. And there's also a Patriot 6 Discord channel. But I hope you enjoyed this tutorial series, and I hope to see you soon. I hope you become a subscriber, and I would like to say thank you for watching this video, and this is Patriot 6, and I will see you soon.